All right. Welcome everybody to the Probate Mastery weekly group coaching call. We had a good conversation going before we hit the recording, so we'll pick up there. Everybody was talking about the market sentiment and how this cannot be a bubble at all, and it has to be healthy. And a buyer's agent has to be a fiduciary when they tell their buyer to sign an addendum that if the appraisal comes in low, it's the appraiser's fault, not the market, because the value is obviously there. So, Eric, you had something?
It didn't really have to do what we were talking about prior to the call starting, but I've noticed a major difference in conversations with people who are just starting probate and their reluctance to even let us get a couple words in versus the people that are already starting to experience the attorney or the people that they thought were going to help that aren't helping. Is other than just becoming better versed in finding my voice, is there anything that I can do to reference? I know the feel, felt, found. I've used things like, you sound like many of my past clients. It seems like the only people that I'm truly able to help are the people that have already sold the real estate, and now we can help them file that last tax return, meet with an advisor. But truly, there's nothing prior to, I only get paid when we buy or refer real estate over for a listing, and I'm glad to help build my impression on helping people. But I've clearly noticed a major difference in the people that are just starting and nope, got it all covered, attorney's taking care of everything, versus the people like, oh my gosh, this attorney's driving me nuts. He's not doing anything. He gave me my first bill. It's crazy. Is there anything I can do to better address that without squandering the attorney industry?
Sure. So I'll start with the bad news, and that is you're going to fail 96% of the time.
Yeah.
So we can't help everybody. Not everybody needs our help. Some people are more savvy and more connected, and they don't need a network because they have one. And that was something early on. I've always held a 6% conversion rate from right out of the gate. And I would beat myself up every time I got shut down because I'm like, damn it, I let that one go. Or they didn't need me. I didn't say the right thing. Until one day I had a little bit of a paradigm shift. And I'm like, wait a minute, you have a 94% failure rate, even though you're killing it, like with a 6% conversion rate. So don't take that so personally, right? Now, I still take it as a challenge. Like, why not make 6%? Some of our members are converting at 25, 30%. It's fantastic. And I don't ever lead with that as an expectation because it just wouldn't be realistic for everybody, but some do. Things like a question, like what market are you in, Eric? Michigan. So probate takes what? Probably 9 to 12 months on average for most families.
Roughly.
So the open to creditors period is only 4 months in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Yes. Why does it take 9 months?
Just because people don't have their ducks in a row. They don't really have any. They don't have any direction. So
think about what your question is in your language, but a question that you can interrupt their pattern and make them think, oh, hell, maybe I don't know everything. Is, well, as I'm sure your attorney told you, Mr. Smith, probate in Michigan typically takes most families 9 to 12 months, but it can be done in as little as 4. So why do you think it takes so long? Now, not to be insulting to you, but most people in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even beyond 5 and 6 months, they don't accomplish a whole lot of anything. It's a whole lot of I should, I could, I would. And they should all over themselves until they realize they're in over their head. And that's oftentimes where we get the call to come in and help. And I'm sure you can think of other industries and other situations where people behave that way. One thing I try to do is touch base with every family early in the process. So I know I've at least done my part to make you on the end of the average, that shortens the average in our market. Yes. Because if I can help you accomplish this in 4 to 5 months sooner, how many thousands of dollars do you think that will save your family? So you guys get it in a distribution. You don't give it out as an expense line in a year from now. So and then after, when you ask questions like that, use silence as your lever. Like just you set yourself up and then shut up and let them sit. Like their wheels will turn for a bit, and then a lot of times they'll tell you the real story, and you'll get the real emotion behind the behavior of procrastination. And a lot of times it's all fear-based. It's they don't know where to start. They don't want to empty out the closets. It's the sentimental value attached to personal property or a sister being a bitch, or you'll start to get the real story. Then you have something to work with. That's called engagement, right? Play that social enterprise card of, listen, we built this service in the community, and even at the risk of offending some people, we reach out early so we can try to speak to everybody. because we watched a lot of families go 9 to 12 months of carrying cost, insurance, everything else, and cost the family thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And the other thing, if you've got a strong personality, you can turn that up and say, and I don't know if the attorney explained this to you, but in the eyes of the law, you're a fiduciary of the estate. And if a family member were to disagree with your actions and hold you accountable and actually go to an attorney as a plaintiff and sue you, they could add up all those accounting, all the holding costs, and actually point that at you in a probate litigation. And you have real
Sure.
legal liability. Now, I don't think it'll go there. It rarely does, especially in
Yes.
cultures like we have here in Michigan. However, there's real exposure that we see a lot of families not even be aware of. And Fed, go ahead and jump in. I think you had something to add.
I was just going to say, I was talking to Bruce when he was doing one of his foundation classes, and he brought something else up where in that type of situation, he also suggested, and I've done it and it actually worked. It works more often than not, where you just say, it sounds like you're not looking for any help right now. So you're not saying it sounds like you don't need, you're not saying the word need, you're saying it sounds like you're not looking for any help right now. And then you just say, just in case that changes in the future, do you mind if we stay in touch? And more often than not, they tend to say yes. And then from there, right when you say, can I give you my name and number? Even if whether they take it or not, then you say, before I give you my name and number, do you mind if I ask, is the family leaning more towards selling the real estate or keeping it or something along those lines? So at least you stay engaged. I found that for me, that's worked.
Keeps the door open.
Yeah, because I agree that if I call a newer lead, more often than not, they do tend to just shut you out. It's almost like they don't even have a guard up. They're just, the second they pick up, they're already jabbing at you. So
Yeah.
you're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know what I mean? They won't even let you get a word in. I found that was helpful.
So another thing that we found interesting is we also have a team that drives for dollars, and we're able to find a lot of vacant houses that are pre-probate. So they haven't really began the process. And a conversation with my probate attorney yesterday, I discovered in Michigan, there's a difference between petitioning for probate and an application for probate. And I pulled up both applications today, filled them out completely. I can't really notice a difference between the two processes. And I plan to research this fully. Is there anything that you know about the difference between a petition and an application? And I would assume one probably locks somebody into a certain way of reporting things. Have you ever heard of anything like that, Chad? The difference between a petition and an application to begin probate?
I'm aware of the two documents. I'm not 100% sure on the difference, but I think it's who is actually filing the document. So if you are a known executor, if you're named in the will, then you're petitioning to probate the will.
Okay.
If there is no will, if it's intestate, then you're applying to probate a will.
Okay.
That's my looking to see if John Fraker was on here, but both of those documents are used to initiate it. I don't think it changes the process. I think it's just a different document to delineate what the relationship to the estate is. A petitioner, I believe, is the person named in the will. So they petition for probate, and then an application could be submitted by anyone. And it's something I've seen done in the Denver market. Investors, I am not condoning this or proposing anyone go do it. Investors will actually take that list, and to flush them out, they'll apply for probate in that county and get them self-appointed, and then reach out to the family, or they'll just randomly choose a family member from a skip trace and get that person appointed, and then reach out to them, and they don't even know they were the executors. I've seen that happen twice, and they actually sold the house to them, and we figured it out after the fact. But they had no idea that they were even named as the administrator until the investor called them to make them an offer. And he was so bold as to put them in probate. Now, for me, I would have never done business with that dude.
Yeah, that's pretty bold. And then lastly, I have a question here is Steve has really been helping us light up the phones with some inbound calls that have been coming back. And what I've actually found is I feel more comfortable, or that I'm actually making better progress when we do a voicemail drop and they're calling back and we're just leaving a kind of a general message, just say, hey, this is Eric, call me back. We find that they're absolutely clueless, and they shut us down even faster than when we reach out to them and are able to it's almost like they're expecting that this is a solicitation and they're just like armed and ready to just like, nope, we're not interested. So while I love getting inbound calls, is there a way to better, and again, I know we can't sell anything on, you're never going to convert anybody on a voicemail. Is there a way to better qualify people so they have some idea of what this is about, so they're not absolutely clueless, and to let them know that we're a little bit sincere and able to help?
I think so. Are you using the voicemail courier, or you're using the live ISA service?
Live callers that are doing voicemail drops.
Okay, so that's the voicemail courier. They're not actually trying to have dialogue.
They are calling. It's not the voicemail carrier. They are calling, and then they're only getting through to so many people and just doing a voicemail drop, but it's not the courier service.
Got you. So they're trying to make the dialogue connection, but
Correct.
if not, they're dropping a voicemail. Gotcha.
Okay.
Soften your offer. Actually, let me hear that recording. Like you don't have to play it. You can just say it. Get close.
I can give you literally, I took it right off of one of the calls that were in, like verbatim. I can tell you exactly what it says right here. And hold on, buddy. I'm gonna call. Give me 1 second. Hello, my name is Eric. I sent you a letter last week and just wanted to be sure that you received it, make you undersure why I sent it. Please give me a call back at 586-745-0187 when you have a moment. Thank you and make it a great day.
Okay, let's switch it up. That's the one that served me, and I've tested dozens. But in your market, there are cultural differences everywhere. And if you're
Sure.
encountering people who are guarded, let's reword it and pitch it as more of a social enterprise. And probably say, hey, what are you doing this under a brand name?
Settle your estate.
Okay, perfect. Hey, this is Eric from Settle Your Estate. We're a social enterprise right here in Grand Rapids. We try to reach out to every family that's going through probate each month. So we actually visit the clerk. She lets us know who we should be trying to help. And I was just calling to see if we could set up a time where I can show you what resources are available to you. My number is 555-1234, and then get off the phone.
Beautiful.
But pitch it as a social enterprise in the community and see what you may be coming up against your own culture, right? And people want to do business with people, especially in markets like that. So give that a shot and pitch it as a social enterprise. I just wanted to get you your free call and let you know what resources are available in the community. Soften that up a bit and then just wrap it up quickly and see how that's going to work for you. I think you're going to get a different result.
I will definitely add that and let you guys know how that works out for us. And I've truly found that when I let people know right off the bat, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a realtor, it takes that guard and drops it down so much. Now I am working on getting licensed, so that's going to have to change. I was licensed for 5 years and then dropped it.
Listen,
but
just because you have a license does not mean you have to disclose that on the front end. Until you discuss price, terms, or anything that's relevant to a specific property, a lot of people disclose too soon in a more fragile conversation, the divorce, foreclosure, probate. And until you start talking about price and terms, you don't have to do that. If it's a marketing message, you do, but if it's prospecting, you don't have to disclose that. You're just Eric. So don't worry about it on the front end. Build rapport, get engagement, and then I disclose in the appointment, as you saw in session 3 of Mastery, when I disclose that I had, even at the time, 4 licenses, it is right before I get into the strategy in the last 30 minutes of the appointment. Now, if your broker has a different opinion than me, but I've just been talking about houses and people. We haven't talked prices, terms, anything like that. So I disclose once they trust me and they're engaged and I have rapport and I'm looking them in the eye. That's when I worry about that. And when someone tries to get it out of me, they're like, "What's your company name?" I'm like, "Wow, a lot of companies. Which one?" Well, I'm like, "Listen, we have a lot to talk about, and there's questions that I'm going to ask before I know exactly how I can help you and which company that might come through, or even if it's one of my companies. I don't know. Why do you ask?" And I'll put the burden back on them. And then they're like, well, they're doing it by default because they figured out that if they can get a RE/MAX agent to say, "This is Joe Smith from RE/MAX 123 ABC Red Balloon Real Estate, and we're the best brokerage in all of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Haven't you heard?" Then they're used to people putting that company identity up there, and it just becomes a useless conversation. It's not dialogue. And then they eventually wear them down and they run out of things to say, and it got them off the phone. So interrupt that and be different. Just say, "Oh, actually, my name's Eric. I'm not sure which company. I have several. And I even have a lot of our solutions aren't even under my leadership. So let's figure out how we can help you." And then we can have that conversation. Fair enough? Or I don't wrap that up and just say, I'm not sure which company or if it's even one under my leadership. Why do you ask? Why is that important to you?
I just
And
seem to get hung up. I just seem to get hung up on less when I say I'm not an agent, I'm not an attorney. At least they're willing to hear us out a little bit longer.
what I'm saying, I'm saying when you have a license, you can still do that. You just indirectly imply that, which is, it's not really deceitful. It's a tactical, conversation. So you don't have to highlight that I'm a realtor. You don't necessarily have to explicitly say I'm not a realtor, but you can say, listen, I do a lot of different things. We help a lot of families in a lot of different ways. Sometimes that's through company A, B, C, or D. I like to first get to know who I'm talking to and what their challenges might be. Then we can decide which hat I'm wearing. Does that sound good? All right. The first question I have is this the first time you've ever done this? Because it can be really overwhelming the first time
Oh, yes.
and go right for the emotion.
Yes.
And you just sidestep that whole thing and you take away the professional conversation with a personal conversation, an emotional conversation. And then they're thinking down a whole different line. Like when they were asking people, how many deals did you do? What's your commission? All those questions that don't matter, but people have a habit of asking.
Sure.
We want to leave them away from that and show them that we're making an emotional conversation. We're compassionate, we're empathetic, and we are the solution to all your problems.
I will let you know how that works out for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for always coming here and asking for input. And Fed jumped in with good advice. Anyone else that has anything to share with Eric, please step up.
Absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong, sounds like maybe the approach you were referring to right now is something that could also maybe be used in general for expired, so not necessarily just for probate.
Sure.
Absolutely. You're just a service provider. And I like the word social enterprise because for me, that's really what I look at. Even this company to me is a social enterprise. I love you guys. I love helping you. But really the impact I'm making is not on you, it's through you. Because I look at this is a way I can scale to help hundreds of thousands of families each year. So for me, it is a social enterprise. And I just happen to have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. But it's in this particular company, it's not coming to me anyways. It's all being given away. But present it that way. And you could use different terms if you want. There's even a letter that I included it's part of all the leads. It's in their library. But I wrote it for the Colorado Springs market. And it's called the Probate Social Enterprise Letter. And the whole front page doesn't even talk. It's a distracting letter, which is the point, to make it very different. And then you flip it over and on the back, they have their options for real estate, starting with option 1, do nothing and suffer the consequences. Option 2, turn it into a family rental, suffer those consequences. And as they go down the line, it starts to slowly introduce the real estate service. But yes, anything you can do to differentiate yourself, especially in a market like this, where we've got, I don't know if we're at all-time high number of licenses issued, but we're pretty close, right? Like we were talking about before the recording started, it's smelling a whole lot like 2006, 7. So anything we can do to not be typical will help us. And so I guess I really developed this approach in short sales and REO is where I learned this. And because I've never worked with anyone so closed up as an owner in default, like an NOD. If they're 90 days behind, they've got debt collectors calling, they've got attorneys calling, they've got selfish real estate agents calling. Investors are looking through their damn windows while they're trying to do homework with their kids. You laugh, but it's true. When you show up on an NOD list, guys will come look through your damn windows, and because they assume that it's vacant, and people feel threatened and guarded. So that's probably the hardest list I've ever worked. And a short sale if you've ever done those at scale, it's a hell of a lot of work. Like you're putting yourself in front of a lot of problems and pain.
Definitely.
But I learned to navigate that conversation using this approach. Like we are reaching out as a community service. And I think the easiest business in the world to get is a short sale. Now, and it's not the easiest to process. I think this is the easiest to process. But I was able to, just so you know, I'd never listed a house in my life. And Jim told me he was doing short sales. I'm like, oh, hell, I'll try. I pulled a list I just went to Craigslist and started looking at homeowners who had expired. And then I referenced that with an NOD list and I would just call them. And within 1 week, I had 12 freaking listings and I didn't even have signs. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to tell them? Because they're like, why didn't you bring a sign with you? I'm like, I ran out. Like I got a guy printing them now. And I'm like, I don't even have a design for it. But it was like, because I approached it differently than everyone else. So Eric Fed, I cut my teeth on this methodology in short sales, and it was extremely effective. I took it into FSBOs, expired. I kind of just use it.
Speaking of or just expired, so I'm actually going after an NOD. So it's ironic that you brought that up. It's literally right in front of me. So
You need to pay your damn bills, Fed. You mean you're sitting in it?
no, it's right here. It's right. I'm just trying to figure out how to approach, because obviously, in general, expireds tend to be a little aggressive, obviously, because they're getting a ton of calls every day. Fine, fair. In addition to that, I guess maybe there's an element of embarrassment for someone who's in NOD.
Yep,
Therefore, I would think that maybe even if we don't necessarily bring up that word or anything like that, they may be a little more reserved just from the embarrassment, because in their head they feel like everyone knows. What would you say? So you're calling and hi, I'm trying to reach Chad.
Ring.
Oh, hello.
Hi, I'm trying to reach Fed.
Who's this?
Hey, Fed, my name's Chad Corbett. This is Fed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Listen, I'm calling. I actually looked at your number up on the internet. That's why I was trying to see. I didn't find the listing for you in white pages. The reason I'm calling is probably the same reason you've talked to a lot of other people, but this is a different conversation. I understand that this could be an embarrassing time for you, but I've helped a lot of families not be embarrassed in your situation. So I really wanted to see if there's any way I could help you. Like I said, it's probably not a conversation you would expect, but the first thing I'll ask is, because you're in default, would you rather me help you keep your home and find a way to stay there, or find a way to have as little credit damage and emotional damage as possible? Damn. I'm strongly front loading. I'm purposely talking too much because I don't want you to use what you've used. I don't want what you've used on others to be effective on me. Mm-hmm. And I will walk right over top of you if you try to interrupt me. But if you're interested, you'll stick in there. Like that part of your brain, that curiosity that's building in your brain, like, who the hell does this guy think he is? And I'm going to ask you really emotional questions. Would you rather stay in your home and work this out so you guys don't have to move? Or would you rather me minimize the reputational risk and or damage and the financial damage? And I'm bringing that negative statement to the top. What I find, I've never worked with anyone who procrastinates and gets reclusive as much as an NOD. And the ones that really kill me, where I will really put pressure on them, is when I know there's equity in the asset and they're trying to, you ever seen the meme or the GIF where Homer Simpson like steps back and fades into the bush? Yeah. Like they all try to do that. But for me, it's, man, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars and tens of 10, 20, 30, 40, 80 points off of your credit score that I can save if I can short sale this, versus you putting your head in the sand and this going to the steps. And your neighbors are going to be a lot less pissed at you. That house didn't sit there with 18-inch tall grass all summer. So that's the way I always entered those. There's a path that I follow on every single NOD. Would you like to keep the home, or would you like to move on? And I'll present it different ways depending on how the conversation is going. But and let me see if I can pull something up here. I have a mind map that I don't think I've shared with you guys in the course, but I will right now. The way my logical mind thinks when I'm going through an emotional conversation.
Rosie, yes, NOD is notice of default.
Okay. Can you guys see a mind map on my screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is for NOD, for probate, anything like that. So this is how my brain processes. This is how the transaction engineering goes on in my head. So the conversation passes, is there real estate? Yes or no? If yes, is there a motivation to sell? And this is where we hit the NOD, right? So we know there's real estate, but is there a motivation to sell, or is there a motivation to keep? If they don't want to sell, then are the payments current? Yes or no? If the payments are current and they don't want to put them in your sphere of influence and nurture them. If the payments are not current and they don't want to sell, you pretty much have a loan mod situation. If you want to get them to their outcome, you could suggest a sort of short sale, but that doesn't get them to their ideal outcome. So a loan modification, and those change with each time the market corrects. If they do say, yeah, we'd like to move on, then the next question is, do we have equity or not? And if there's yes equity, then we know what's the target date. And if it's inside of a 30-day period, make them a cash offer. 60 to 90 days, we can probably get it done conventionally. If it's long term and they want to absolutely maximize price and sometimes minimize taxation, then we'll go to these creative financing strategies. If there is no equity, same thing. We're going to anchor of the target date. And if it's less than 30 days, we don't have time. We got to turn it into a rental and get the damn payments made. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. 1 to 6 months, we can probably pull off a short sale. And long term, we can go creative financing and actually let a tenant pay down the mortgage and raise the equity level. But this is how I look at every conversation. Regardless of the lead type, this is the mind map that I've just cognitively built over time. And I just recently actually put that into a mind map. But so that's what I would say is think about what that looks like for you when you get on the phone. Like, where do you want them to go logically? And then go back and apply your emotional language and good questions to that. So would you listen, I know you're getting a lot of pressure. I have one question. We have a social enterprise here in the community that's set up to help people minimize credit damage or stay in their homes. So would you rather keep the home and stay, or should I find a way for you to get rid of the home and minimize the damage? There's only two options. Pick one. Like, what are they going to say? How do you skirt out of that other than hanging up?
It sounds like we could also use the same or a variation of that intro with an expired. Is that correct?
You can use it with anyone. And I believe the mind map I just showed you could be built into one of the most successful real estate coaching organizations anyone's ever built. Something that simple. Just the methodology of letting that the customer experience journey, that map, designing your language around that, not what you think needs to be said or what some damn guy said on YouTube. And I'm one of those damn guys on YouTube. But like, I firmly believe I've used it on every list I've ever worked. I've used this same exact methodology. And I just started paying attention to how people react, what the objections were. And I hate being rejected. Like we all do. We're salespeople. Like you can grow thick skin, you can tolerate it, but I sure as hell don't like it, even though I can tolerate it. So I was like, how do I create a system where no is not an option? Like, you can't help me is not an option. And I think at first I did that to build self-confidence, right? Because I wanted to know when I picked up the phone, nobody can tell me that I can't help them. And I know that I can always monetize that. So that taught me, it gave me the confidence to know, regardless of what list I was calling or what list the inbound call came from, I knew I had a solution. And you saw on the end of that mind map, if you count up, each of those are unique strategies. I had 14, 15 unique strategies. Like, I've yet to see a house that I couldn't fit through there and actually help them and monetize it. And I can send you guys that. I'll send you a link to that. But yes, it works for any of your lists. It even works for sphere of influence. Are you ready? Do you own a home? Are you ready to do what? Would you like to sell it or stay in it? Even building, like, one of the things is building rental. If you want to do property management, if you do, I would recommend you find a counselor to add to your team because you need one. Just kidding. For all you property rental people, like, I am not the personality type to be a property manager. But yes, I'll send you that link, and you can really use it on anything and everything.
Yeah, I was asking because I do agree with Eric. I really have never liked the approach when I call any type of lead where I say, hi, this is with ABC Realty. It's like you're teeing it up for them to swing, and I just never liked it. So I think your version is a lot smoother, and it's just.
It's one of those things, and I have a soapbox rant for many things, brokerage, but it's one of those bad habits that was established. I'll say this, the culture has shifted and changed very much since the 1950s, and I'm sure that was very effective in the 1950s. The problem is a lot of real estate training is decades beyond where the consumer culture has moved to. And it's a lot like the school system. We do educate, we give people great education in public schools for 20 years ago, but they come out into the workforce and we're not preparing them for the information economy. And the sales training is often like that too. We prepare, like we take a guy that was a master in 1983 at selling this, and he couldn't be shut down. But we've had a massive cultural shift through the information age. It's people are just different, and they feel like their privacy is invaded around every corner. You're being retargeted, and people just are different, and the brand loyalty is not what it used to be, like within our industry at least. With some things it's stronger, but in small business and real estate, financial services, insurance, it's more about convenience and like how quickly they can get what they want, that instant gratification and solving their problems. And so, yeah, I've got three thoughts going at the same time. There's a really good book that it's on the reading list. It's called They Ask You Answer. Have you read that?
Not yet. I do have it though. I'm going
Man,
through the list.
put that on the top of your list because it's an inbound marketing book, but it also will help you. When I first read that book, Jen Bailey, who was on this call, she suggested it to me. You're gonna love this. The author is, and ironically, he's in Northern Virginia, not too far from where I am. But the way he had a pool company, and a lot of what he teaches, yeah, Kat just dropped it for you, Rosie. They Ask You Answer. And it's actually a good audiobook if you like audio. It's more story than reference. So it's a good audiobook. But anyway, that book validated a lot of the things that we've talked about here today. It's really being empathetic to their position. Seth Godin is another really good person to follow for this type of, if you believe in this type of prospecting. And the most recent Seth Godin book that I've picked up is This Is Marketing. And it's a really good book. And it basically says the same thing that we're talking about here. It's do something with real purpose, and you'll be proud to present it as a solution, not saying, this is Chad from ABC Real Estate, the #1 brokerage in all of Roanoke.
How do you spell Seth's last name?
So Godin.
Oh, Godin. All right, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Fed. Rosie, I see you have a hand up. How are you today?
I'm really good, Chad. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
So you have the best webcam I've ever seen anywhere, and I've talked to thousands of people on Zoom. We need to know what it is.
It's not a webcam, it's actual camera. And it's just that I don't want to change every time I'm recording or.
No, I love it. Like it's different. Tell us how you configure that. You're USB tethered to an actual DSLR or?
Yes, so I will give you the most easiest terms. My husband is the main one behind it. It's Sony A6600 or 6100, and it's a HDMI and another USB coming out of it to ATEM Mini, which is the actual equipment between the main camera and my desktop. So I'm able to project the video and the camera into the desktop camera. So you need an ATEM Mini as a device between the camera and desktop.
It differentiates you. I know you're sitting behind good glass because you've got like this beautiful bokeh in the back. You got really good depth of field and really sharp foreground. Yeah. You're an overachiever in everything you do, Rosie.
You know what? You just said it. If we do everything with an intention of an outcome, then we can avoid a lot of hiccups. And quite frankly, last December, when we were wondering on how to go about probate and really reestablish ourselves through COVID, you guys were having some really good conversations and I was taking notes. You're right, Chad. Like in today's market, we as realtors, we got to distinguish ourselves just from simple buy and sell because everybody is about convenience and instant gratification. And I had that concern 7 years ago when I got into real estate because market was so hot, but I was going around and asking realtors who have been doing it for long enough. I said, how do you survive in the bad market? Okay, I'm going to be good in the good market, but when the tide goes down, that's when you know who's swimming naked. So I didn't want to be blinded by good market. And you're absolutely right. The second one where they don't have equity and all the 6 options, if we as a realtors can become aware of it, we can become irreplaceable as well in this market. So that's how camera came in. And it was an investment for us at first. I'm not going to hesitate from saying that. But I think any investment is only a risk if we are not willing to hold our dollar accountable for the investment we are making. So we were serious about recording, and I'm sure you guys are seeing that we're releasing videos, listing profiles on our marketing.
You're doing an amazing job with video. I honestly, of my whole sphere of influence with realtors, you're one of the top 3 in video. You took the challenge and ran with it. And I've been doing video to sell real estate since 2006 when WebEx launched their first webinar platform. I got this Logitech camera and some kind of dongle with a hook into my computer and my phone. And I would literally, I recorded webinars in 2006. I don't even remember where I learned all this stuff, but I led every sales team because I was selling remote to people who were 500-600 miles away. And I've used video. I built my whole career on video. So I'm really happy to see you doing it. I'm shocked at how few people do video, and there's still a ton of opportunity. Grant Cox isn't here today. His grandfather passed away, but Grant took the challenge seriously, and he's done incredibly well. And I know, like, you obviously know him. You guys are helping each other, but you guys learn from these folks. Learn from Grant Cox. Learn from Rosie. Learn from folks who are leveraging the power of video. And Rosie and Grant are kind of quietly in the background working on some stuff that we're vetting out for the rest of you guys. But like, how can we scale this? How can we hand you the video blueprint to unlock it in your market? And then all you have to do is buy the camera and follow the model. But yeah, I hadn't said anything. I was really curious how you're getting such good quality, but it's noticeable. But you didn't stand up to talk about that. How can we help you, Rosie?
I was just actually raising my hand when you guys were asking what scripts we use. It's actually very similar to what you guys are saying. We made it very simple, straight to the point, because of the timing and resources. We wanted to get as many no's under the belt to truly understand how probate leads think. And some of the things that have really helped me get to the point are, like, once we introduce ourselves, we simply disclose, you probably already have a probate attorney working with you right now. Is that right? So that way they're not going to say, our attorney, hang up. So if you acknowledge that, then they know, then we disclose, we're not calling to help you with the probate process, because they're probably thinking that we're marketing with the probate process. And once they have said, they've given me a little bit of their time, then I simply say, my husband and I, we do this work as a service to our community, and we want to make sure you're making the best decision around real estate. Has your attorney provided you or offered you some help in that matter? And that's when they're like, that's where the really happens. Had they had the conversation about real estate with attorney? Or
that's really good language, Rosie.
Thank you. And that will tell us where they're really in the probate process. Sometimes people don't even understand what letter of testamentary is. So maybe reading a book like this one right here, the Executor's Handbook, I would say just read the first 3 chapters and then skip to real estate chapter. Between that, your conversations with your leads will change significantly. And then when they say, they kind of stall, I personally don't try too hard, because we know business is in follow-up, right? So we simply get to the point and say, hey, as weeks and months go by, things might get overwhelming. And in case you feel stuck, I want you to save my number on your speed dial, because we want to make sure, since you have given us your time, you've been generous with it. As a thank you to you, I want to make sure you're making the best decision around. Will that be fair? She said, and then at the end, they would ask me, so how much do you charge? I said, I would have to know to what extent you need our help for. And when they're asking me this question, how much do you charge? It means there's something I said to them that they found of value. And that's the only time people become curious about price. So I simply ask for a follow-up date. That's it. And the follow-up call is either where attorney is stalling, or second conversation would be a lot of investors would be calling them. So I just want to make sure you don't think I'm another investor trying to call you. We help people with the best decision around real estate. And that's it. And after that, we plug them into our video emailing and the interviews we have done with probate attorneys and our email campaign. And that's all the effort. And another best thing is that once you acquire this much knowledge on something, make sure you tell everyone that can possibly need it. So I have a consistent habit around showing up in my investor calls, and I often let people know I'm a local probate specialist. So now you're going to get leads from investors who are prospecting these people, and they are not going to buy it if it's not something sellers accepting. So you become the retail realtor partner for those investors. So join the local REIs.
Thank you, Rosie, and everybody else on this call. I remember last July.
Very good information.
Fed, you beat me to it. Last July, this lady's name showed up on the roster for Probate Mastery Live. I think it was July, maybe June. And less than a year ago, she was a student. And Fed, here's to you, Rosie. Like, your language is amazing. Your approach is sound. Like, you're an asset here. Like, you've gone from student to coach very quickly. So thanks for sharing that. And we got it on recording. No, always great to hear your input and the advice, and love watching what you guys are doing down there.
I'm very encouraged, Chad, and you're certainly a very effortless teacher in this and a great coach. And I just learn while you talk. And I'm so glad you're doing Zoom calls, because if I can see someone talk, I can learn so much better. And I'm so glad I get to see all these realtors now. I can connect in my head who to send referrals to. And gosh, if we have one answer to each of that leg and branches that you have drawn, we don't need to worry about open doors, purple brick, or any other one percenters.
I'm actually, and I kind of came clean to you guys last week about why I haven't moved forward with estate mastery and building out the next big thing, because I'm considering casting a wider net and actually developing a system around this approach, but throughout that entire tree of decisions. So I can enable you to work any and every lead type and have answers and solutions that are that you can implement on the spot. So you never ever walk away from appointment going, man, I wish I knew how to help them. And that's what I'm considering, is actually building out everything in here, just building it out as one big course and community where we talk about probate, we talk about divorce, we talk about short sales. Because I've investors, there's a different way to approach investors, especially an investor going through, like if investors are going through divorce or partnership dissolution, I've had to bail guys massive portfolios and like some I did piecemeals or release. So much business out there for the atypical realtors who are willing to just raise the bar a little bit. So that's what I'm actually considering, turning that mind map into the magnum opus project, and just we can still have all the probate conversation we want, and I'll still continue. This is my favorite list of any and every list. But if you're not getting the business growth that you want, then you can step in and bring in another spoke, add another source to, another spoke to the wheel. But so that's what I'm thinking, the direction I'm headed. I came back to West Virginia to be in the place that I love with the people I love. And my dog, guys, 3 months I didn't get to see my dog because he decided to stay here with his grandma and granddad. So while I'm here, I'm going to do some kayaking and fly fishing and really hopefully get clear on this and build it. But I'd love to hear feedback from you guys. If you think that, I think Fed, you had some good advice last week, is don't dilute it too much and devalue it. This is more what I was thinking. It's not so much diluting it as just giving you more surface area by having a broader skill set.
Yeah. And Chad, one of the experiences I'm having is that I have worked extensively and diligently in retail business, and I could have been a little bit more organized with my effort rather than just going gung-ho on it. And I have done the same amount of effort on the real estate investment side, having probate conversations, showing up in REIs, having short sale conversations. I have learned there is equal, if not opportunity in terms to get referrals, in terms of getting paid, if we just change that 1 degree angle. And I'm telling you guys that for 6 years of my 8-year career, I've only done retail. Like I used to sell my listings to those investors who will do all these creative things with them. And I just wondered, why am I on this side alone? I'm very encouraged to do it in a way because I don't think there's enough platform. To be honest with you, in the investor group chat, realtors are roasted. Let's just be honest about it.
That's how it was in mine too. And that's largely what shaped me the way I ended up shaping myself in residential. Because I'm like, oh, hell no, you're not going to look at me that way. Yeah. And I came in and gave that 2-hour presentation that showed them their market. And everyone was like, they were all anecdotally approaching their analysis. And I went and showed them the hard numbers and what a guy was capable of who'd been in the market for a week. And from there, like, I established credibility, and I've done, I've probably sold over 300 houses through that one little group.
Oh my gosh, I believe you on that. And that, no amount of whatever, everybody has their own way, but in my personal personality of how I feel connected, it is so valuable. Like just one group, you can feed your business for career. Like it's, and build wealth on it. Because ultimately, we've got to be honest with ourselves. Real estate actual growth is in owning real estate and investing in real estate. Selling is a great platform, but if you can learn also how to invest in real estate, think about how valuable we are becoming to our clientele. Now you can teach other people and take it to your clients. If you have a property that is 20% less than market value and you're helping one of your past clients buy it, they're sitting on 40, 50% equity in their home. Put a lender in touch with them to refi it and put them on this house. This is fun work. I've sold real estate all year, Chad. Last year we sold 104 units, and I probably left my desk right here 10 times all year long. My goal
I
is
did.
not
I,
to ever leave this desk. That's it. From here, I'm going to run the whole world. So go ahead, please. You were going to add to it.
No, I got my whole business to that point in Roanoke within 4 years. I was doing portfolio sales for investors. Now I did go to the initial appointments with the families in probate, and I always went to the closing table because I just out of respect. It's important to people. There's maybe one or two closings in my entire career where I didn't look the person in the eye and congratulate them regardless of what the situation was. So I always left my desk for the people parts of the business. But
and I just value that. I value that. And I remember showing up on each closings but COVID helped transition because title companies won't let me. I do miss that interaction. There are some things that I truly fire me up. You can feel yourself when you're coming out of the appointment that it fueled you. So I look for that interactions as well. And I think Chad Corey asked if I have done any probate listings and sales yet. Yes, absolutely. I'm actually under contract with my probate listing, and 2 of the probate are going to be our flips. And I'm actually working on another post that I just posted today with a probate issue where there's a missing heirs. Yes. Did it take me time? Yes. Did I build my pipeline? Yes.
and Rosie goes so far. So Rosie was one of I would say you're probably the student of mine that most quickly jumped to the advanced level, where when she got her first deal done, she sat down and said, okay, let's turn you guys into lenders. And she used the equity from the estate to capitalize her investors to buy their next deal. And you just create this loop of transactions. And we talk about that in session 2 and session 3 of mastery of so yes, retain generational wealth, but then access it. Show them how they can double their money at 18%. If they're doing 1.15% to your investors, they're doubling their money every 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And Rosie was one of the first, like you jumped on that within a month of actually beginning. She was having those conversations. Yeah, Rosie's somebody to follow. If you guys haven't connected with her, she's incredibly generous and she's doing it. I want to say something here like this. The last couple of weeks, these conversations have gone where I didn't really expect, but I'm open to whatever shape this business might take because I want to make sure it's for you guys. So when I first started to realize what we were talking about, how a lot of business goes under the radar of retail realtors, and a lot of investors give up the 75% of the business they can't reach because they don't have a license. I'm like, why is this? How have we made it this far into U.S. history or into our story? And we have 2 real estate markets running not even parallel to each other. One's kind of running underneath, and those people are trying to drag the others through the mud. And the realtors are telling you how unethical and scumbags investors are. And I'm like, where's that disconnect? Like, how do you blend that? How do you blend these 2 parts of the market to where they're one and raise the integrity or at least the reputation of the investor community and raise the education level of the realtor community and create a single market? That's something that I had a long conversation with a friend in Orlando we met, and something that that's what I would like to do with the rest of my career in real estate, because I figured out how to do it at a personal level. I figured out how to blur that line where I'm just Chad and this is just the real estate market.
I'm your student, Chad, if that's what you're doing, because that's exactly the boat I am in. We used to have an investor group, and there's a joke after joke on realtors, of course, because realtors tell a seller they can sell for the top market value, don't give it away to an investor. So there is like this cold war, but if you have a thick skin enough to sit in it and just know that's your opportunity, I am yet to really define what is an ideal realtor that works in a role that is beneficial to an investor and to retail both. I'm yet to be able to define it.
I can have you running within weeks. So many things that I've done. Like at the same time I was helping these probate families and doing short sales, I was putting together private equity deals and turning people into private lenders. And I was doing business like at a really advanced level and a really basic level at the same time. And every strategy that I showed you in that mind map, I was running them all at the same time. Now you have to make sure that you understand them all, and you can't do this overnight. Like the average person, it'll take you a year to get the education piece in place and build the relationship with the right attorney who has your back on paperwork and all that. But within days, I can have you at a level of clarity where you like my whole goal was to never ever tell a seller or a buyer that I couldn't help them, and never ever spend my time doing something to help somebody where I couldn't get paid. And I've got this whole system that I've kept in my business, and I've focused all of my energy on probate for the last 7-8 years. So these are encouraging conversations for me because I'm like, damn it, I just feel like I could do so much more for everybody. And this is validation of that. So I appreciate the ongoing conversation about it. And I've never even showed anyone that mind map publicly to say, here's what we could be learning about. And if you guys want to email me, it's Chad@Magnum Opus Project, or just jump in on Facebook and let's start a conversation there. Like, I would love to hear where you think your blind spots are, what what can I give to you? And it's not just me either. I've already talked to other guys about this there's a handful of people who I've met in my career that I really respect. I don't know if you guys listened to the podcast I did with Chris Prefontaine. Kat, if you're on here, can you drop a link to it? Chris is one of those guys, and I think we're doing something tomorrow. Jim Krautkramer out of North Carolina, he's one of those guys. There's a small handful of people who have really blurred the lines. They're not an investor. They're not a realtor. They are a real estate professional. And if you ever listen to me in role plays, unless I accidentally did it, you probably never heard me call myself a realtor. It's real estate professional, real estate expert, real estate specialist. And it's because I want that to be a blurry gray area. I want them to go, well, what do you mean real estate specialist? Oh, let me tell you about that. I own 4 companies because we help a lot of families in a lot of different ways. And people respect the hell out of it. And I'll tell you, this is when you're providing 4, 5, 6 options to a seller or a buyer. Buyers have less options than that. But when you provide options like that they thought you were coming as a one-trick pony, and it was going to be focused on the number. Like the quickest way to lose any negotiation is to get stuck on a number, right? It's over. If you have that and no other gambits on the table, offering these options are just gambits. They think, all right, I'm going to judge this guy based on whatever number he says he can sell my house for. And I give them numbers higher and numbers lower, and then a number probably like all the other ones they got. And then they're just like, holy smokes. So you get this whole new level of respect from your prospect, and they become clients. So let's start a conversation in our Facebook group, and I'll start the post. If you guys jump in, let me know, like, what can I teach you what do you think based on what we've talked about today and what you've seen? What's my highest service to you? Because I love teaching. This is what I want to do. And I really want to get rid of this, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor, the hell with the other side kind of mentality, and frankly, make a better consumer impact. And real estate's going to become the bill that's on the table in DC right now is likely to greatly complicate the real estate market, and for the next, who knows how long, decades to come. So I'm sure a lot of it is positioning and political gambits. However, we can start to build trust and credibility with folks so Al, I'm talking about the 1031, the step-up basis being removed. There's a lot of things in this bill that's really terrible for real estate. And just as an example, if you max a 1031 benefit at $500,000, now I'm a hedge fund manager that's worked the last 20 years of my life, and my ego keeps getting bigger and bigger, and people trust me more, and more investors come in. And when a dollar comes in, it's a hot potato, and I have to get it out. Now you take my tax advantage away on a multi-million-dollar asset. What am I coming for? I'm coming for the house next to yours, and I'm going to price your neighbor out of his own damn neighborhood. And I'm going to own the entire block before the end of this decade. And I will institutionalize housing in the middle class of America. And that's why these things are so dangerous, because I feel like they're not looking at the social aspects of the policy they're proposing. So we're going to have, I feel, a sense of duty. If this is a law that passes, you get a sense of duty to protect individual home ownership, because otherwise institutions are going to own neighborhoods. They're going to own suburbs, and it will completely change our culture here, the culture of those neighborhoods. So some of this stuff might not happen. It might be political positioning and just gambit. But these are the types of what we're talking about. If we know how to navigate it from all those different ways, we can step in and protect people and offer them things they're not considering right now.
One of the institutional buyers actually bought a whole subdivision in Conroe. I'm getting listings and the offers are coming from acquisition managers. I've never gotten those kind of offers. Who are you acquiring these properties for? So they're coming, and last week I got a call on the referral. I saw this guy's house and he said, I have a friend, she goes to church and she was crying her eyes out to me. Rosie, you need to really help her out. I told her you can. And after talking to them, Chad, here's the bullet points of it. She has never done a flip in her life. It is a quadruplex. She only got into the business because the contractor who is used to doing this is her best friend. He went to hospice. They have a hard money loan on the property. And you and I both know how high of an interest rate that is. She has emptied out her life savings trying to maintain the payment while the partner and contractor is in hospice. And now she needs to get rid of it. She doesn't know what to do. There is not enough money to go on the market and sell because it's an incomplete project. Financing wouldn't happen. What do we do here? Now is the time to bring the investor who can take over, pay it off, flip it, make it a buy and hold, or maybe make the seller an equity partner so she can get some of her financing back. This is going to happen again and again. And Chad, what was the biggest separating? She got a lot of realtors and calls and all that stuff, and she wouldn't return my call. So I left a voicemail saying, hey, you're probably thinking I'm a traditional realtor who can only help by sticking a sign in the yard and putting on MLS. And you're probably thinking you don't have enough money to pay my commissions. And you're probably not sure if calling me will serve as a solution. I want you to know I work in 12 different ways to help people. I don't know which one is best for you. So I know the trouble you have on hand is worth 5 minutes of conversation with me. She called me back right away. So we are under contract in Galveston. I drove 3 hours and it's a 4-unit property. So it's important that it is essential that we expand our knowledge. So I thank you. That's all.
Well, that's amazing. All right. Who else? Anybody we can help? Anything anybody wants to share? Any questions? You new names here.
You brought up that you were doing your main work now in notes and syndications last week.
Yeah, so I write private and I buy real estate syndications, which are basically not technically crowdfunded. So they're for, and that's the other thing. I'll go back to like my passion to blur that line and create real estate professionals. My hope for each of you guys is I can get you out of production. And I had this conversation with one of my students from 4 years ago who just called me today. And he was like, I know who to call when I need help. I've been procrastinating. I need to get back in this. And we had this talk, but he's created a really good job for himself, but he doesn't have a business. And I don't know about you guys, but when I was in the thick of it, working 8 days a week, 17 hours a day in real estate, it felt like a job to me. And I started to educate myself and work on some different things and slowly move in that direction to turn a job into a business. And once I hit the accredited investor status, once you have $1 million in net worth, and you can reach into a whole new world of investment opportunities. So that's the other part of this community that I would like to, I don't know if there's a demand for it. Let's just see a show of hands. If I can show you how to work less, make more, become a millionaire accredited investor, and have access to private equity deals where you get 5 to 1 to 10 to 1 gains in a year, who's interested? Because that's how I built my career. That's the track I went on. I went from a negative net worth to well beyond that, to being able to retire at a very young age and give away more money than I ever thought I could make. And that's what I want to do for all you guys. That's what I really want to do here. I don't want to drive revenue and talk about this and that. I want us all to move in that direction together. And I want to be able to bring us as a group together and take down a private equity deal. So there's a lot of things that I've done. I've been trained by some of the top syndication coaches and attorneys in the country. And I have a lot of friends who are sponsors. And I have a lot of exposure to that world. And my goal is to not show you how to become busier, but how to do less work, retain more money through optimizing your taxes, through investing in certain things that help give you a tax benefit or minimize your taxes, capital gains. You guys heard me with coming up short on his name out of Sacramento, the guy that had the opportunity 2 weeks ago. I encouraged him not to flip that house because a lot of his profit is going to be eaten up by taxation. And there's a lot of things we can do that we can make an extra 20% return, even though someone else might be like, that guy's a damn fool. The margin was thin on that deal. But if we can use that to minimize our earned income tax, then it can have a huge return. So that's the kind of stuff I want to start teaching. So Joyce, what's in that is in 2013, I moved in 2012. I started in production. By 2013, I had learned enough that I was like, oh, I got to do something different. And I started writing small balance mortgages. The smallest mortgage I've ever written was $6,000 for a 4-day period. And it's 1 point origination, 15% interest. And if they go out of term, whether that's the term is a week or the term is 5 years, if they go out of term, the interest rate retroactively adjusts to 18%. So there's an incentive not to default. Now, I've done those anywhere from, $6,000 for a few days to several $100,000 for up to 5 years. And you think, what kind of damn fool would pay 15% interest? And it's one that trusts you and one that knows you're not going to give them a bunch of BS fees and run around, and you can fund the deal tomorrow. And I only do it with people that I've been able to personally vet, like that I know, and I underwrite the assets on my own. I write in markets where I know the market, but I've come to trust PropStream quite a bit. I've written a couple out of market loans where I knew the person, but I didn't know the neighborhoods or the market, and I underwrote it solely with PropStream because I do trust that. There's no database is perfect. PropStream's pretty close. And as far as syndications, for a true syndication, you have to have accredited investor status, meaning you have to have at least a $200,000 annual income or a $400,000 joint filer's income or $1 million net worth, excluding your primary residence. And once you clear that bar, you can just get a letter from your CPA, you fill out the questionnaire. That's where you can start to get in deals that have massive gains. And some of these, like in opportunity zones, you can buy into a DST as a Delaware statutory trust. And there's several sponsors who are really savvy. So they set up a Delaware statutory trust in an opportunity zone. So your cash flow isn't that great. You're making all of your money by saving the money you would have paid in income tax. But some of those things we don't actually get to reach into until we can get to that accredited investor status. So as a coach here, anyone who's not a millionaire, that verifiable millionaire, I feel compelled to get your ass there as fast as I can. So 1, how do you make money? 2, how do you retain money? 3, how do you minimize taxation? 4, how do you invest for big gains? And 5, how do you quit working so damn much? Like, those are the things I'm really passionate about teaching now because I was able to achieve it. So we'll start this conversation over in Facebook where we can start to see what everybody feels like they want to learn the most. But this is encouraging to me because I sit and think, nobody really wants to learn all this complicated shit. They just want to learn how to sell probate real estate. But if you guys are eager students, I'm a passionate teacher on this stuff. And it's what I've found over the last several weeks. I spend most of my time helping friends do this stuff, coaching them through strategies, helping them scale their small business, helping them design a lifestyle where they can step out, even down to things like, guys, do you know that I haven't balanced a checkbook since 2005? And I haven't actually physically paid a bill since 2005. I automated my whole life. I do not get physical mail. My mail gets emailed to me and it falls into a Dropbox folder, whether it's personal or which business it's associated with. And I can teach you little things like this that will take back. You can gain back so much of your time and mind space. And those are the little things that really helped me optimize life. And it's why I can, even before this year, before I made a drastic change and moved into an RV, I was traveling 6 to 8 months a year. And I'll tell you, I spend less than $50,000 a year and I live an amazing lifestyle. So I've learned to, like, I was at Macy's last week. My friend of mine's a professional photographer and she did a photo shoot for me. We walked into Macy's. I picked out a Tommy Bahama shirt. It was $120. I walked up to the counter, offered him 70 cents on the dollar, and he folded like a damn beach chair. And I walked out with the shirt I wanted. I don't pay retail for anything. And you can do this in every area of your life, not just in your real estate portfolio. So there's so much that I have to teach about this stuff, like how you can buy everything at least a 30% discount, how you can save. I've gotten my effective tax rate down to 19% through a lot of these little life hacks that really helped me become more profitable, put that money back in the business, let the business invest it instead of me personally spending it. And it's not going to be the same for all of you guys, but you can take inspiration from it. And so far, only my close friends really benefit from that. But let's start that conversation. If you guys think it's something for this community, I'll start teaching it all.
I got something to
Say it, Roger. It better be nice.
I will be nice. Thank you. And thank you, Rosie. I've had within the last month a single brand, a personal friend who I've watched over the years, and he's just become over a millionaire. He's asked me to come to join him in his stuff. I'm stuck on this Weichert brand, and I think that's what happens to realtors. They get stuck on a brand, they get comfortable with the pace of what's happening. But then I started really working my probate stuff, and now I've had one of the three investors that I'm working with right now. He said, I want to start a real estate company, and I want you to be the executive broker for it. And I want to start building stuff like that. And I said, whoa, you're going to have a lot more flexibility in the state of Arkansas if you don't have a real estate license, which is reflecting on one of your conversations. Do your own deals under a separate LLC, have somebody else do the LLC, and you're doing it through that thing. And I sit there and I went, well, that's how you do that. And within the last 2 weeks, I've got a business broker who wants me to come on board and be his executive broker of starting up he's probably about 78 years old, and he wants me to come over and start helping him with M&As and other issues and other businesses. He says, you make a lot of money, Roger. And I'm sitting here going, what am I missing? This is a paradigm shift. Oh God, Roger, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. What are you doing? What am I going to do? I need to talk to Chad. And
so where these conversations always start with me, Roger. What do you want your life to look like in 10 years? Do you want to be working more or less?
Obviously less. Yes.
And if you bite off those opportunities, will you have to work more or less?
There's a lot of learning, a lot of analytics that I've got to catch up on with. Not much. I've got a lot of background in finance and with my MBA, and it's old, but I'm going to have to buck up on it. It won't take me quick.
So,
it'll be a quick study to get to the language that they recognize. But with the investors doing their own self-investing, so on and so forth, as well as working the other stuff and working probate. It's just basically the emotional disconnect of Weichert, the folks that I've been with for the last 13 years, and going out on my own. I've already had 2 of them. I've mentioned one of the opportunities with some of the guys, and they said, "Oh, you're going to go broke if you do that, Roger." And I sit there and I go, "Thanks for your limited perspective."
So I want you to look something up, and this is something I find myself having this conversation a lot lately. It's interesting how some things just keep coming up, but I want you to look up the crabs in the bucket phenomenon.
The crabs in the bucket?
Crabs in the bucket. So it came from ancient Chinese Confucianism, but it's also closely followed in Western psychology. And what it is, it's an observation of a real phenomenon. So if blue crabs are put in a bucket and one tries to crawl out, the crab will drag it back in. If it tries to escape again, they'll drag it back in and break its legs. So it's physically incapable of leaving the group. When people say things like what they said to you, it's because deep in their subconscious mind, I love Roger. Roger's going to leave me. He's going to escape and I'm going to lose that love. I got to find a way to keep him down here with us. Get back in the bucket, Roger. And understand, I'm not saying that there's any fault to be placed on them. They're doing it from a place of what they believe is a place of love. But usually it's not action. It's not an action motivated by love. It's an action motivated by fear. And you'll see it. Anyone who grew up in a rougher neighborhood will typically be drugged back to that social situation. And anyone who, it's present in all parts of our life if you just look. But keep in mind, that person's default is to keep you as close as they have for 17 years and have access to you and be able to, just pat you on the back when you do a good job, whatever that might be. So in there, I got to keep him in my tribe. He's part of my tribe. I trust him. Hell, I love the guy. And they're like, Roger, you're going to screw up. Like, you're going to fail. And they mean it with it's coming from a place of love, even though it feels hateful. So read about the crabs in a bucket phenomenon, and it'll help you in a lot of areas of your life. The other thing I will say, having known you for several years, seeing how you approach things, I think business brokerage is a good fit for you. There are 12 million baby boomer business owners in the United States right now that do not have a disposition plan. They have the choice to put their business on the market. In 2019, the last normal year that we had on the books for small businesses, or all businesses, there were only 1 in 14 businesses sold. The majority of those were between $5 million and $150 million in revenue. The vast majority of baby boomer businesses and the businesses in your part of the country are going to be well below that $5 million mark. So M&A firms, private equity firms, they're all overlooking them. They're not looking for those companies. It's the same amount of work for less revenue and there's less meat they can take off the bone, right? So there's this amazing opportunity in this country to step up and preserve small businesses that otherwise there's a 1 in 14 chance they'll actually sell and go to a new business owner. 13 out of 14 are going to shut down and sell the equipment for whatever they can on an auction format or yard piecemeal it out. I started something last year called Your Small Business Hub, and we were overwhelmed with the response. I have over 600 young aspiring entrepreneurs that are trying to step out of their W-2 and into small business ownership. And it's something that I've coached people in. But for you, there's opportunity in real estate because a good majority of those businesses will have real estate attached to the business, right? So you can monetize it in more than one way. You have the finance background. You have the will to serve. Like, I think you'll do really well in business brokerage, and I think you'll work less in that business than you will just continue. I think there's a ton of opportunity, and if you want to talk offline, we can. But I will selfishly say I don't want to see you quit probate real estate because you have become kind of an idol that I point to in this because of you. You listened when we first spoke. You took what I said seriously. You put it into play, and you've become a great example for everybody. So for that reason, I don't want you to quit doing that, but find a way to automate more of that.
I think I will, and it'll probably be on a training side and staying involved with that because it looks like I'll have to find somebody to do some of the stuff that I'm doing because I'll have other responsibilities. And listen to me, I'm already over there doing it, but it's okay. I had a conversation this weekend and went to
Hey,
yes.
I don't know if you were on. I gave Fed an exercise. I think it's been 3 weeks ago. Let's have you write a letter. 2031, Roger needs to write 2021, Roger, a letter. See what comes out and doing that exercise. Sit down and say, my gosh, I never knew that life could be this easy. I never knew that you could make so much of an impact and so much money doing so little work. I closed 4 deals last year, but they were all big business deals with real estate attached. And I made commissions on the business sale, commissions on the real estate sale. And hell, one of the kids even asked me to stay in as an equity partner because he'd never owned a business and he wanted me to be his coach. It feels this way. I do this in my free time, but it's an exercise that'll immerse you in your own. You get immersed in your own vision, and it gives it some life. So do that between now and next week.
You're going to be proud of me because my son is a transportation broker for C.H. Robinson, and he's got an opportunity that he did. And I do remember hearing your suggestion of write yourself a letter for the next 10 years, looking back on where you were. And I used that with him, and he just sit there and he went, "What good is that going to do?" And I said, "You're building the future going backwards." And he just sit there and he went, "What? I've never heard of anything like that." And I said, exactly. That's why you need to do that. And so we had a couple of other coaching moments, and I really enjoyed the weekend. I had played golf with him. I've had a back problem for the last 4 years, and I just finished 2 years of chiropractic and picked up the golf clubs, and I can't hit. I don't know. I don't know what I do. Everything goes 100 yards, 125 yards, driver, everything. I think I'm casting before that. That's where I want to be. I want to spend some time in Phoenix at the John Jacobs Center and get my game going back. So I used to be a 10 handicap. It's a lot of fun, and I'm doing it. Look forward to having one-on-one with you sometime.
Hey, something I want to share with you, Roger. There's a doctor that I met in Aspen, Colorado last winter, and he's got a business called Back Forever and Golf Forever. And it's all based for people my age to your age, but it's not necessarily, he's a chiropractor. I think he might be an MD on top of that. Jeremy James, I think was his name. But he's got a system just for keeping your back in really good shape so it doesn't become injured, but especially for golfers. And he was a high-end golf coach and golf chiropractor in the Aspen market. And he decided, hey, I need to get this information to more people. And he's worked with a lot of Olympians. But I think it's $10 a month. And he made an app. He made an app that goes on your phone, and it's a series of daily exercises for the specific movements, in your case, for specific for golf. So you strengthen those muscles and don't risk having to go through 2 more years of chiropractic treatment because you're doing small things daily to prevent that injury to begin with. And it's amazing. Like some of the folks he works with, they're in their mid 80s and their their shoulder mobility and their swing is unbelievable. And it's just doing a little bit each day. So that's something you should look up. Back Forever and Golf Forever.
I got it down. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. What's that, Fed?
Look who showed up, Mr. Pennell. How's that
Is he
sound?
here? Oh, what's up, David? Well, he had a picture of Kevin Ward in a cowboy hat earlier today. He sent me. I'm like, what in the world? Was that your hat or his? You're muted out, David. So here, let me see if I can unmute you.
I got it.
There you are.
Yeah, his father's really sick here in Fort Worth, so he's been here twice in the last 10 days.
Well, it's too bad the circumstances. But if you guys don't know, Kevin Ward is a real estate coach. He's had a lot of stuff on YouTube. Yes Master is the name of his channel, right, Dave?
Yeah, it's a really good communication coach.
Yeah. So David's one of his. I don't know if you're his student or his teacher at this point.
We sat on my porch until 1 a.m. last night, just
Nice.
talking about life.
Did you just now jumped on? How long?
A couple minutes.
Okay. So you just got to hear we're going to revolutionize Roger Lacey's golf swing and then change his life. And he's going to become a business broker and a multi-billionaire. But before that, we decided that we're going to actually broaden this conversation and teach folks to do what you and I do and monetize every deal with multiple strategies and get rid of the stigma between realtors and investors. Are you on board?
Oh, hell yeah. I just got a referral call from an agent. They said, I guess they saw my probate stuff and they just finished probate, but they found me through YouTube, which is awesome.
Yeah. See, there it is, guys, video. And David, for anybody here that doesn't know, David, you took mastery, it's been 3 years now since you got started in probate? And he, for encouragement, within 1 year, he was in 7 digits of revenue and has been able to cut his overhead immensely. What are you working now, David? 3 days a week or down to 2?
It really doesn't feel like work anymore, but
He's like, I work 7 days a week. I have a baby and a house I'm rehabbing. But
yeah, it's amazing, man. And I found one estate that has 60-something properties in it that I'm the sole person taking care of it now. So she calls me hot shot.
Are you going to piecemeal that or portfolio sell it?
Just waiting on the heirs to make that decision. But they're getting rid of the worst first, and then they want to sell off the good stuff, I think, as a whole.
Yeah, let me know when that one's ready. Let me know before it goes on the market. I can probably sell it right in a couple phone calls. Yeah, especially if it's in Texas.
Yeah, they're getting rid of everything with bad title issues, and then we'll probably put everything together that has good title and just get rid of it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who are looking for those in Texas.
Yeah, she let me have 4 in the last week to sell, and it's 73,000 assignments. It's not 20 grand, 22,000 a house.
73 grand in a week.
Yeah.
I bet you've had worse weeks.
Oh yeah, horrible.
So guys, David is a really good example of what I would like all of your stories to look like. And we can take and blend this brokerage strategy with an investment strategy and add in the other investment strategies, and then start to really focus on how do we make sure you pay as little taxes as possible and invest in the right places and the right assets, diversified, of course. Then the conversation becomes a lot more exciting like these. And every time David and I talk, I'm just lit up. But yeah.
I didn't have places to go to with some stuff like that. I do now. I'll holler at you.
What's that thing about depreciating an asset, Chad, where since I have that house now, it's valued about 900,000 downtown.
You mean cost segregation?
I heard someone talk about it on YouTube. I just didn't understand if I could use it on an investment, or does it have to be a homestead, or where you depreciate your previous income to offset an asset?
I have other questions. I won't put you on the spot on a recorded call. I'll call you and we can talk through it. There's different ways you can do it. You can do accelerated depreciation. You can do cost segregation. It really depends on your bigger tax picture, how it's going to benefit you the most.
Okay.
And the other thing is, so you're looking at anyway, we'll talk about it offline. I've got some other kind of personal finance questions that I don't really want you to have to answer on a recorded call. But all right, guys, who else can we help? Anybody have anything they want to add? Bill Gross, good to see you here, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be seen. Great to be here. Small factoid, when Kevin Ward left his last job as a coach to somebody else, I replaced him. So
Who
I
replaced him?
when Kevin Ward left
They-
21 Masters, they hired me as his replacement. Small factoid.
Oh, look at that.
I've never met him. I've talked to him and we've emailed, and I like his material a lot. I've never met him, but just small factoid, me and Kevin Ward, just for this one.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He's when I first met him, he was real nerdy and just starting Yes Masters, and he's evolved and he's had some trouble in life. And one of those things that it talks about now is his daughters. He didn't have a connection with 3 daughters,
Wow.
and it forced him to California. I think he doesn't say that, but it forced him out of Texas for a little bit. But he wanted to move to California.
He's seasoned over the years.
Yeah,
Wow.
but he's reconnected with his daughters. He's a beautiful relationship. He has 4 grandkids. He's so excited about it. You know, it's amazing. He just went camping with all of them up in Possum Kingdom over the weekend, and they had the best time. So it's cool. Yeah, you need to come out there. You could camp when the Red Bull gets here. They do that competition where they jump off that cliff. There's a cliff. It's called Devil thing, and they dive off of it.
I'll be Fed. Oh, we got Fed. Fed doesn't know he's prospecting live. Who wants to listen? No, you're not. Oh, there. Darn. We were going to get.
Where you at, Chad?
I called an audible, Dave. I'm not going to be. I came to the farm in West Virginia. I came up to visit mom and dad for a bit. So I'll be in Fort Worth a little later. I decided to come up and have some mountain air and see my dog and my parents and float
Hey,
trip. Yeah. You're going to let me pick the paint color for my bedroom, right?
Yes. We'll do pink, blue, and red. Whatever you want.
Remember, I want an RV pad on the west side of the house.
Okay. That's easy. Just for you. And then I'm going to buy me an RV when you leave.
Nice. And when you're not using it, we're going to rent it out. I've got buddies that are
Yeah.
making 24 to 30% internal rates of return renting freaking Class C RV. My friend Sergio, he worked for the Federal Reserve and he got his fill of that. And now he's one of those guys we were talking about earlier doing syndications. He's syndicating self-storage. So he's got these self-storage that he owns, his company owns. So he's now buying RVs to park on the self-storage facilities and automating RV rental. Like he uses a lockbox system. They come, they show up, they take it, they leave. He comes back and he's getting $250, $300 a night for these little 31-foot Class Cs. But he's making like damn near 30% return on a rental portfolio of RVs. And so there's good business in it.
That's awesome. It's an awesome market, and it's just your horizontal development for an RV park is really low. It's compared to putting sticks up and building houses, and there's just a lot of people going small. And I see that kind of stuff popping up all over this place in Northwest Arkansas. It's just frigging phenomenal. I'm working on a deal for one of my 3 investors. The seller worked for the University of Arkansas for 40 years. He's a PhD emeritus. And my first visit with him, I walked up to his house, knocked on the door. He walked up with a Marine hat and a Marine camouflage overshirt and pants and boots, and had a Marine symbol on his t-shirt. And I didn't realize that he drinks in the afternoon. And I just walked up and I said, "Were you in the Marines?" And he looked at me and he said, "Son, once you've been in the Marines, you're always in the Marine. What the hell? I can kick your ass anytime I feel like it." And I just looked at him and I said, "Yes, sir, you can." And by golly, I'm just walk over here to the edge of your front porch and just admire you. And the dialogue went on from there. I'm still working on him to get his price down to where my investors are trying to get. And that property has mini storage on it, and it has about 30 pads for RV parking on it, and it's grown up, and there's just so many opportunities. There's so many of those popping up over here in Northwest Arkansas. It's incredible, and it's just the price of the land. Put a dump or some way to have the waste dump in it somewhere, and get some water, electricity, and cable to it, and let people start parking and paying you $400 a month.
It's Arkansas. We'll just put some Schedule 80 on the surface and pipe it to the creek.
I tell you what, right now there's so much water coming off. Beaver Lake is high, and the White River is just, they've got the canoeing, and is just awesome right now. And it's just, this is the time you should be up here.
I know, and I'm sorry I didn't get to come through. There's so many people to visit, and I decided, I talked to Mom and Dad last week, and they were excited even to mention that I might come home. So I was like, the hell with it. So
Good for you.
I only stopped twice to get diesel between Florida and here. So I'm going to spend some time with them. Speaking of, guys, I'm going to wrap up. I told them I'd be done at 4, and here we are. Love these conversations. Thank you guys so much for all the participation. And either me or Kat will drop a post on Facebook to start the conversation on what you want, what I can give you going forward. And we might even theme these calls where we do, instead of a general coaching conversation, maybe they're a little more themed, where we actually focus on a theme and teach that and focus that conversation. So anyways, encouraging call for me, guys. I can't tell you how much it means to have all these faces and names as part of this community, and look forward to serving you going forward. Have a great week.
Thanks, Ted.
Yes, Chad.